The combine is in the rearview mirror. NFL free agency is days away. Teams' needs are changing every day. New players are shooting up draft boards. It makes perfect sense to do an updated post-combine mock draft. Yo, not every mock draft is going to be perfect. And this mock draft certainly won't be perfect, but I'm gonna do a hella good job of keeping y'all entertained with some cool scenarios that could end up playing out in this year's draft. So make sure you lock in that like for me, subscribe if you're new here, and I'm finally on board. Caleb Williams at number 1 to the Chicago Bears definitely seems like it's gonna happen. Ever since the Chicago Bears locked in that number 1 pick, I really felt like they would end up trading it and they would keep Justin Fields. But even the NFL insiders that work closely with the draft feel like Caleb Williams is going to be going to Chicago at number 1. And a couple of weeks ago, I got on the same page. I get it. I understand why. And probably at this point, it makes a whole lot of sense for them to just reset their quarterback market, go ahead and get that rookie deal with Caleb Williams, and maybe have a little bit more consistency in their offense, even if losing Justin Fields' upside on the ground is going to take away just a little bit. And when you take a look at my scouting report for Caleb Williams, there's definitely some things that stick out that make him a number 1 overall talent. The ball placement, his accuracy, it doesn't matter where he's throwing the football. He's going to beat it right where the wide receiver can catch it and nobody else can touch it. He's got the athleticism to move in the pocket, get outside the pocket, pick up yards with his feet. And his processing and vision, both before the snap and post snap while he's going through his reads, are absolutely excellent generational like talent attributes that top quarterbacks need to have. But everybody has some weaknesses, and if you watch Caleb Williams in any of his games or just the film alone, he tries to do everything sometimes, and it doesn't really feel like he sits back and says, you know what, I'm going to work with my teammates to try and win the game. It feels like he goes out there and just tries to do it himself at times, and then he ends up getting himself in trouble. His mental strength is also something that I'm worried about. When you take a look at how he carried himself while he was at USC, it really did feel like there were times where he was just mentally beat down. If things didn't go his way, he was starting to check out. And at the NFL level, how is he going to handle failure and adversity? And how is he going to stay mentally strong enough to work through that? And his arm strength is currently about average at the NFL level. If you were to put him in a range with the other NFL quarterbacks right now, he'd probably be really right in the middle of everybody. He doesn't have the worst, but he's definitely not going to have that elite arm strength that some of those top quarterbacks have either. But again, vision, accuracy, athleticism, the talent is generational and it's NFL ready, which is exactly what the Chicago Bears need to move off from Justin Fields. Will he be able to handle the mental part of the game though at the NFL level? That is the biggest question mark he's going to have to answer. At number 2, Washington has a new owner, new leadership, new coaching staff. It really feels like they want their quarterback, and Drake Maye feels like their quarterback. Do they end up trading Sam Howell? Potentially. If one of these QB needy teams miss out on a guy, trading for Sam Howell may end up working out for them. But Drake Maye feels like a Washington guy at number 2, and the scouting report backs that up. Drake Maye's strengths include his NFL size and build. When you watch him play on film, he looks like an NFL quarterback. His size, he's not going to be a guy that's going to get hurt too often. He's build. He's not a guy that's out there tripping over his feet. He does have some athleticism to move around in the pocket and even get outside the pocket. His field vision and anticipation when he's going through his reads and looking down the field, you can see him process the field. His arm strength is a little bit better than Caleb Williams. Even if it's not the best in this draft, he's still going to be able to sling the football anywhere on the field, and he's got great mechanics above the feet. When you watch his hips, when you watch his shoulders, he's definitely a guy that has it all together. As far as weaknesses go, he does tend to hold the ball a little bit too long. As I mentioned with his field vision and anticipation, he keeps his eyes down the field field, and instead of getting rid of the football sometimes, he holds, and then either A, he's forced to make a throw he doesn't want to, or he ends up taking a sack. He also has a longer throw motion. That arm does drag on the follow through a little bit, and because of that, he doesn't get the ball out nearly as quickly as I would like, and he does tend to make some risky throws outside the pocket. He starts moving his feet, his instincts take over, and sometimes he tries to fit him into some slots that he probably shouldn't be throwing into. His outlook, he looks and feels like that quarterback. He looks and feels like the guy that you draft to play the position at the NFL level. He needs to learn to take what a defense gives him a little bit more often, though, but he can be a team at any level of the field. The New England Patriots had to play against Marvin Harrison for a lot of years while he was in Indianapolis. You know what? Why don't we take the generational talent Marvin Harrison Jr. and play with him for the next several years? Because I could absolutely see the New England Patriots deciding that they want to address the quarterback position through free agency with a veteran quarterback instead of trying to draft another guy. And if that happens, Marvin Harrison Jr. is absolutely what this offense needs. Picture him going along with Ramondre Stevenson, Hunter Henry, and some of the other guys that they have working in and out there that will make this a much better offensive scheme, and one that will hopefully carry the defense a little bit better in 2024. Arizona at number 4 also needs a wide receiver, so they're going to follow up Marvin Harrison Jr. and go with Malik Neighbors. Think of Justin Jefferson. Think of Jamar Chase. Some really good LSU receivers. Malik Neighbors is going to be in that company within a couple of years. I will admit, Brock Bowers at number 5, I don't love it. If the Chargers get here and they don't want to address the defensive side of the ball, I would rather them just trade back instead of drafting Brock Bowers. Now, it's nothing against Bowers. I do think he is a very good NFL weapon, and he actually would probably succeed at the NFL level with this team. We know that Jim Harbaugh, when he was at Michigan, loved to utilize his tight ends. There's just something really icky about drafting a tight end inside the top 5 picks. I would much rather Neighbors or Harrison Jr. fall here, but if it doesn't, the Chargers taking Bowers definitely would be a win now move that would go big time for this offense in 2024. At number 6, the New York Giants invested way too much money into Daniel Jones last year, and when Jayden Daniels falls to them at this pick, they can't help themselves but to grab the Heisman winner. And I feel like some people in the comments are going to be like, Kyle, Jayden Daniels and Daniel Jones seem a lot like the same type of quarterback, and that couldn't be further from the truth. When we take a look at the scouting report, Daniel Jones and Jayden Daniels do share a couple similarities, but really the athleticism is where it ends, because Jayden Daniels has way more arm talent than what Daniel Jones does. He does very well with accuracies on throws that are 20 or more yards down the field, and when he's moving in the pocket or outside the pocket, he's constantly keeping his eyes down the field, going through his progressions and utilizing that vision to still make a throw if it becomes available. And his mechanics are absolutely consistent, and that's why he was a Heisman winner this past year. That's something that Daniel Jones did not have coming out of Duke. Weakness, though, is going to be he just lacks some traditional NFL size. And really the best thing that you're going to be able to do to keep that from being too big of an issue is just don't let him become that type of dual threat quarterback that's going to take a bunch of hits. Or if he does end up running the football quite a bit, make sure he's getting out of bounds or he's sliding. And as far as the arm goes, the arm talent is there in terms of accuracy, but his velocity isn't everything that we would like, and that is okay at times. I talked about it with Caleb Williams. It's right kind of like in the middle of what you would want for an NFL quarterback right now. We would like to see it a little bit higher, but everything else with Jayden Daniels is so good, it's really hard for me to knock him too much on that. He has the opportunity to be just as successful as Williams or Maye in the NFL after the draft takes place. His biggest issues, though, aren't his fault, and he's definitely going to overcome that as long as he continues to utilize that great work ethic. At number 7, Tennessee goes with the top offensive tackle, Joe Alt, and this is a pick that I continue to hammer home here for Tennessee. Yeah, you might want something a little bit sexier. You might want one of these wide receivers that posted a great combine, but build up that offensive line once again so you can protect Will Levis and give him an opportunity to grow. At number 8, Atlanta continues to be in the market for a quarterback, and this is one of the spots where either the Atlanta Falcons could trade up or they end up taking like JJ McCarthy if they fall to him. But I'm going to go a different route, and I'm going to go with Dallas Turner from Alabama. I think the athletic freak edge rusher is going to be a guy that the Atlanta Falcons cannot pass up, and they're going to want to establish that defense because I could see them making a move for a veteran quarterback in free agency. And when you take a look at the scouting report for Dallas Turner, he's got that first step burst. His first step and his last step seem to be just as quick because he has closing speed to finish plays. And what I mean by that is if a runner gets to the outside, if we do a screen pass, if it's a quarterback on the run, Dallas Turner has that exceptional first step to burst through the line, get past any type of a tackle or guard that he might be going up against, or maybe even a tight end on the very end. And if for some reason the play doesn't come to him, he can close with his speed and get over there to help make a play. He also does well adjusting to the run game. He's the type of edge rusher that can play both the pass and the rush and do very well with it. Weaknesses, it really goes around his technique. When you take a look at his technique, he needs to refine it. He needs to work on his hands and his footwork a little bit because he's always been so fast and so explosive. He's basically beat people with that off that first step. At the NFL level, to be a true edge rusher, especially if they're going to have him put his hand in the ground, he's going to have to work on that technique. But really, based on what we're seeing so far, it does seem like he would play better as a standing up 3-4 linebacker. So instead of putting his hand on the ground like you would say with a Joey or Nick Bosa or an Aiden Hutchinson or someone like that, it feels like he might be a guy standing up on the outside like a Jadeveon Clowney. Could end up being something he does more often and is better at, especially at the beginning of his career. Speed, strength, athleticism are going to cause disruption at all levels. As soon as he cleans up that technique, though, he's going to be a constant winner. For the Chicago Bears and their second first-round pick at number 9, we're going to go with Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle out of Penn State. You drafted your future quarterback already. We need to protect him, right? That's going to be one of the key things here. You did build up the offensive line a little bit last year. It still isn't where it needs to be. Let's go ahead and draft another tackle to really hammer home the importance of protecting Caleb Williams, giving him time to throw, and letting this offense go out and cook. At number 10, Rome Odunze, wide receiver out of Washington, is going to be a really good fit for the New York Jets. It's going to be another weapon for Aaron Rodgers this season. It's going to take the pressure off Garrett Wilson, and probably the biggest bet here is the fact that it's going to open up the run game for Breece Hall to go absolutely insane. Odunze, really, when you take a look at what he does, he's kind of the opposite of Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is that guy that can win all over the field. He uses his speed, things of that nature. Odunze is going to be that big X receiver on the outside that no matter where you throw the ball, you know he's going to be able to go get it. At number 11, there's a lot of talk about the Minnesota Vikings going rookie quarterback, but give me cornerback Quinyon Mitchell instead. Mitchell absolutely solidified himself as a potential top 10 pick, and in my opinion, the first cornerback taken in this draft. Everything you want from a cornerback, Mitchell possesses. And given the fact that they're going to be playing in a division with Jared Goff and a high-powered Lions offense, Jared Love in a high-powered Lions offense, and a revamped Chicago offense, you're going to have to be able to stop the pass, and Mitchell's going to be great at doing that. At number 12, Denver gets their quarterback of the future. JJ McCarthy from Michigan drops down to them, and they absolutely hammer that pick. I'm not going to talk about JJ any more than I already have on this channel. Just know that he is absolutely going to be just fine at the NFL level. He's going to make a lot of people look really bad. To me, at number 13, Las Vegas is a big player to try and move up in this draft to get somebody that can absolutely be a game changer, either on offense or defense. But in this mock, I'm going to have him go kind of the safe route here, and we're going to go with offensive tackle instead. Elise Fuaga out of Oregon State is a really good bet to be a solid all-around offensive tackle. I know a lot of Las Vegas fans are probably going to want something a little bit sexier, but you're going to need to build up that offensive line. And Antonio Pierce seems like the type of guy that wants to get gritty, he wants to get down and dirty, and he wants his trenches to consistently win. At number 14, New Orleans is going to get what I consider to be a gift. Jared Verse, edge rusher out of Florida State, is going to fall to them here. And now at one point, Verse was my edge rusher number 1. Dallas Turner was a very close second, and after the combine, he took over that spot. But Verse is still going to be a game changer on the end of any defensive line, and New Orleans needs help in that area. We're going to have a little bit of a trade here, and this might be one that a lot of people don't agree with, but I feel like Dallas needs to lock in an offensive lineman, and they're going to have to move up to do it. Now, there's going to be a couple of guys that may end up falling to them back at the end of the first round that actually won't end up being that bad, especially considering Tyron Smith is going to be moving on in free agency. They're going to need an offensive tackle. But for me, I want them to build out the middle of the offensive line to begin with, and then hopefully get another offensive tackle to groom a little bit later in this draft. Because when you take a look at the offensive tackles that are going to be left later in the first round, you're going to have some guys that could end up being really good. But Jackson Powers Johnson, a guy that could play guard for right now, then go back to center when Zach Martin is done, would absolutely be a game changer as one of the best technique offensive linemen in all of this draft. Seattle decided to go with the defensive-minded coach in Mike Macdonald, and when you take a look at what he's going to want to do with his defense this year, UCLA's Laiatu Latu seems to be the perfect fit for Seattle on the end of that defensive line. Mike Macdonald is going to want to get after the quarterback, and you saw that with his game plan consistently last year with the Baltimore Ravens, and you're going to end up seeing it again this year with Seattle. Yeah, Jacksonville may end up needing a wide receiver now that it appears that Calvin Ridley is going to be moving to free agency. But Jacksonville also plays in a division that's going to be throwing the football a lot for a long time to come. So when the cornerback Terrion Arnold falls to you, you really have to consider it. And this wide receiver class is so deep that I really feel like Jacksonville could find somebody good in the next round and take them there instead of overdrafting here. So give me Terrion Arnold and start making that secondary a lot more intimidating. Cincinnati needs to do a better job of protecting Joe Burrow. We've been saying that since they drafted Jamar Chase instead of going with Penei Sewell. And I get it. And that has basically worked out for the most part anyway, but they need to invest in that offensive line. And Amarius Mims is an absolute beast of a human that is going to be a very, very good offensive tackle. Yeah, he's got some room to grow, but he could end up being one of the best ones for a long time to come. The LA Rams are going to have some holes they need to fill on the defensive side of the football. And sometimes the best way to fill some of those holes is to have a really good pass rush that helps cover up everything else. Chop Robinson out of Penn State could absolutely end up helping with that. Pittsburgh ended up getting the legacy Joey Porter to fall to them last offseason in the draft, and now they're going to take care of the other side and go with the extremely fast, extremely athletic Nate Wiggins to help finally control some of the bleeding on that defensive side of the football when it comes to the passing game. And in that division, you absolutely have to stop it. At 21 overall, I'm going to have the Detroit Lions trading up with the Miami Dolphins, and a couple of reasons that this makes sense for me. Number one, Detroit has a little capital that they can trade to move up if there's a guy that they really like. Not only that, but Miami needs to gain some capital. They are a team right now with a lot of players being paid a lot of money and not a whole lot of draft capital to try and fill open holes, and not a ton of money to be able to spend either. So being able to pick up some extra picks from Detroit would work out great for Miami. But Detroit's going to move up, and they're going to take cornerback Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. Now here's reason number two why this makes sense, because we have seen Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes say, you know what? If we like a guy, we're going to draft him, and we don't care where we draft him at. And they also don't care about a season-ending injury either, because when you take a look at Jameson Williams from a couple of years ago, they knew that he basically wasn't going to do anything in his first season and traded up to take him anyway. And with Cooper DeJean, he's not going to end up missing all of 2024, and you need to fulfill the secondary as well, so why not if you like him? They seem to love Iowa players and the mentality that comes from there. But come on, Cooper DeJean feels like a Dan Campbell type of player. When you watch the film, absolutely, he's the type of guy that would fit in well in this secondary. You're always going to get 110% out of him. He's always going to be giving you everything he has, and that's exactly what Detroit loves to draft. At 22, Philadelphia absolutely needs help in the secondary. And Kool-Aid McKinstry has seen his draft stock drop a little bit, but he's still going to be a first-round pick, and going to Philadelphia would work well. Houston is going to be looking to build up the interior of that defense, and Jerzon Newton, interior defensive lineman out of Illinois, will do exactly that. A guy that not only can get through the line of scrimmage and get after the quarterback, but can also block it up and stop the run as well. Indianapolis traded back with Dallas, and yes, a cornerback for me would probably be the top priority, but also giving Anthony Richardson some game-changing weapons is another top priority as well. And you're already already going to franchise tag Michael Pittman. We know that. But why don't we bring in Brian Thomas Jr. to play on the other side? And now this offense gets absolutely insane with game-changing breaking speed on the outside. You've got Michael Pittman, who can dominate over the middle of the field, Jonathan Taylor, and of course Anthony Richardson. This offense would be hard to stop. At 25, Green Bay's going to go with Troy Fautanu, offensive tackle out of Washington. And this is a guy that will give this offense some flexibility because he can start inside at guard right away, or he could go to the outside and play tackle. He's definitely going to be somebody that can go back and forth. And you really need that with your offensive line right now because we still have some questions about what's going to happen the rest of the offseason. Get a guy that can help on either side of the football and be able to protect Jordan Love. If Tampa Bay doesn't end up getting a deal done with Baker Mayfield, I absolutely could see them going with a pick here like Michael Penix, quarterback out of Washington. And for some reason Baker Mayfield does end up signing, then Michael Penix isn't going to be drafted because Baker Mayfield's contract is probably going to be a pretty large extension. So when I take a look at this draft as of right now with no quarterback and Mike Evans saying, yep, I'm coming back to the team on a 2-year deal, you got to solidify that position, and Michael Penix would be the best bet to do that as of this recording. Arizona got their offensive weapon earlier in the draft. Let's go ahead and go with their offensive protector now. J.C. Latham, another guy out of Alabama that can be very, very flexible. Come inside to play guard, go outside to play tackle, but more importantly, give Kyler more time to throw to his new weapons. Adonai Mitchell out of Texas was a huge riser at the combine. A complete wide receiver that also has the speed to play anywhere on the field. We know Gabe Davis is gone. We don't know what will happen with Stephon Diggs the rest of the offseason. You got to get some more playmakers for Josh Allen, and Adonai Mitchell would be exactly that. After trading back, Miami addresses the defensive side of the football, and we're going to go with Byron Murphy out of Texas, interior defensive lineman. He helps fit a couple of different things. Number one, he can help your team get a lot better at stopping the run, but number two, he can cause some havoc in the middle of the offensive line, which will help your edge rushers get free a little bit easier, and then that will help this defense get to the quarterback more often. Baltimore has a few different ways they could end up going, but they're going to want to continue to keep this defense as strong as possible, and Darius Robinson, edge rusher out of Missouri, is going to do that. Another riser from the combine that had a second-round grade from me going into that now has a first-round grade, and at the end of the first would be a great fit in Baltimore. We could definitely see the cracks in San Francisco's offensive line during the Super Bowl, and Graham Barton, interior offensive line out of Duke, would end up being a great fit at either of the guard positions, and absolutely is going to be needed to keep the run game going, but also keep Brock Purdy healthy. And at number 32, I think this is going to be a super popular pick for a while now. The Kansas City Chiefs taking Xavier Worthy. We've talked about it a lot this offseason, where the Chiefs, their offense was good last season, but it's missing that speed factor. It's missing that deep threat. Well, if you draft the Combine's all-time record for fastest 40, that's definitely adding some speed. Xavier Worthy would absolutely be the perfect fit in Kansas City. Well, there you have my breakdown for all 32 first-round picks of the 2024 NFL Draft. Who's somebody that I had going too high? Who's somebody that I had going too low? Is there somebody that wasn't in the first round that you think deserves to be? Let me know down in the comments. But for now, Headliner Nation, peace out. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.